You know, I think recently, as I think as I age or something, or as I see other folks passing away and stuff like that, or not just being with us anymore, it reminds me that how fortunate I am. I'm still around. I could still laugh. I could still throw caution to the wind. But I'm not invincible. I'm kind of vulnerable. I'm kind of delicate. I think just like everybody else. There's a soft underbelly in all of us. And some people, they give into that soft underbelly. And it's, your most vulnerable part. But you expose it for all to see. So, knowing that, let's just say a paper cut can kill you. But you do it anyway. What is it that's driving you to do things, Or what drives someone to pick up a guitar? Is it just you have a song in mind? Should that blessing come to you, you have a song come in mind. And then you get on the guitar and you start writing your song. Maybe the words come out first, you write the words, then you start playing a couple of grooves, you start singing words over the grooves. Or maybe it's vice versa. You do the groove first, and then you start learning to throw words in those grooves. And somehow there's going to be a time of which everything starts melting for the first time. And then starts becoming its own little new flavor. Like, those things that you crush, herbs and stuff like that, where that's if, let's say, spoken word or song or melody is involved. You may have, percussive, rhythmic, pulse, beat, whatever you want to call it, and then some sort of tone. Let's just say a tone. If that tone holds, it's called a pedal. And it pulses, and we got a pedaling tone, and somebody joins in, could be harmony, but we haven't got a melody yet, but we just got some tones and a wall of sound. Before you know it, somebody gets interested enough to throw in their soft yellow underbelly. And they say, what if I throw this melody on top? And they sing their heart out. But they gotta be willing to know that at any given moment, anyone can say, that's horrible. That's a horrible melody. That sucks. Can you try that again? Can we erase that melody out? No, you can't. You gotta take a chance. And that's when music happens, folks. When it's when you're not even expecting it. It's not necessarily so that you need to be on your instrument to write music. can write it in your head. You can actually visualize you playing the guitar. You play it enough, you're going to know what an E sounds like, a D sounds like. You're going to know what it feels like. You're going to know what it feels like in your throat to sing it. If you're going to get out of breath, can you do it with a strap on? And in that, there's a connection there. And that even, I mean, that's a, before even the guitar gets involved, that's a connection to self. You know, you're connecting to yourself. Now you're asking this thing to join into this connection of self here. You know, and so, you know, it's an interesting thing about, like, guitarists that play in bands, you know. They have to take their guitar side and level it down a little bit, guitarist side, and be more of a bandmate. And when they are, then they become integral part of the whole sound of the band. Like, in order for the band to move, we need this cog in the wheel. It's part of the whole mechanism. Like a drummer is, like a bass player is, you know. The rhythm section, so to speak. And when you don't have that, and you only have your guitar, it's all in your head, you know. Everything's in your head, seriously. The things we get to express come from our heart. And we put that in pen, and they'll think that we're crazy, and they think that's all in our head. Just the idea of writing, it takes a willingness to expose your soft yellow underbelly, I guess. You got to be willing to allow people to tell you you suck. You know, you're not good enough. You're not tall enough, skinny enough, good looking enough. You know, you don't have the it factor or whatever the factor is, you know. But you listen to a lot of that stuff, you're never going to get that inner stuff done that you need to get done. That conversation with yourself, you know. And then if you include this, now you have, you know, everything comes out. And you include this, the guitar with your bandmates. Your bandmates get that. So the idea is not to just be a bandmate, you know, unless you're okay with that, because, you know, if you're not the leader of your band, leader meaning that you're the majority of the creator, you know, writer, or lyricist. If you're not one of those, then you damn well should be a good bandmate, the best bandmate you can be, and be there for your bandmates, because they're relying on you. Because a lot of, you know, being in a band means that everyone has a responsibility. You're all in the foxhole together. If one guy sucks, one guy has the ability to make the entire group suck and expose how terrible you guys are, or it can expose how great you guys are, depending on how each and every one of the band members takes their responsibility seriously. If they don't take it seriously, well, things fall into the control of uncontrollability. And that's chaos. On the other hand, you know, I mean, live chaos on stage is always interesting. It's a sonic experience. It can be a visual experience too, because it's happening for the first time, one time only, never seen before, in this city, at this time, on this day. But there's obviously so much more. I think there is. I think I've always been sensitive about feeling and how it felt to me. I can definitely relate to feeling good. You know, every time I have a guitar in my hand, like physically, I feel good. Like I might fatigue, like, you know, be hunched over, or even if it's strapped, when it was used to be strapped on my shoulder, I could play. I was that person who could walk all day with a guitar strung around their chest all day. Well, and a little brief story. Okay, just, I throw little hints here and there, but in the early '80s, I did go to Berklee College of Music in Boston. That is, my great influencers in music were and still are Frank Zappa, John Coltrane, Mingus, Barker, Davis, Miles Davis, you know, Mike Stern, you know, I did the McLaughlin route, Love Beck, Hendrix, I can say no more, Joe Pass, I love Joe Pass, I do, I really do, Albert King, actually all the kings. I got into music, I think, just like everyone else, except different. Does that make sense? I mean, that's what your route's supposed to be, you know? You know, for me, it was all a tactile thing, like, you know, as I mentioned once before, you know, it was all about just touching it for the first time. You know, and having already some sort of understanding that I'm supposed to have some sort of respect for this instrument. And mind you, the first guitar I had was not an electric, it was an acoustic. And, you know, when I was a kid, it wasn't even mine, it was a cousin of mine in Peru, because I'm Peruvian. Despite me being born here in the United States in 1962, I was actually made in Peru. Yeah. Good times, Mom. Thanks. That was a good ride. I landed here. So, anyway. So, what do I got? What's the imparting message today? It's my belief that most guitarists, I'm going to say guitarists because they're past a person who can play guitar or even a guitar player. A guitarist is full-flown, like, who are you? And they answer guitarist, okay? That's all they are. That's what they are. Outside of those folks, because many of us, even pros actually, not to say, because some guitar pros are not actually the best guitarists, but they're decent guitar players, and they'll play along with the band, and they do the gig, and they do an important job making everyone happy. Perfect. Okay, have some respect. Not everyone has to play like Jeff Beck or, you know, Al Di Meola or Santana or Yngwie Malmsteen or Eddie Van Halen, you know. No, you know what? Busy yourself just developing your own style. You know, sure, I suggest you do some listening. Do intense listening to all the people you want to listen to. But don't make their music more important than the music that you need to make for yourself and discover for yourself. Sure, be inspired by the great guitar players that are out there. You know, get a tonal characteristic of and shapes of harmonies and melodies that they're drawing for you, so that later on when you start, you know, finding your way through the dark, you're actually connecting the dots with a lot of the stuff that you've been conditioned for, the stuff that you yourself pick. You know, so like, if you want to start playing like, say, Brian May of Queen, best thing to do is just listen to all the Queen stuff, and they got a lot of stuff, right? You listen to that for like a month straight. Guess what? It's gonna seep into you, and you may not even know exactly how, you know. And he's actually, I love the way he plays, because he spells it out for you as he's doing it. He's playing chord tones and arpeggio, just eloquent. He's a study. So appreciate the study of Brian May. It's simplicity. It's exactly what's needed. It's elegant. It's thoughtful. It was mature before mature was in. How about that? That's what I think about. How I feel about Brian May. Exceptional guitar player. Anyway, long story short, we shouldn't be this whole thing about like so much importance on like a guitar type or the pickup or it to me it's like so it doesn't measure up. None of it does. Like a good looking pickup cover, a good looking knob, a finely glued joint that you should never see. How about that? How about tuners that just work? Period. They don't have to work better than anything. If they just work, then they're perfectly fine. How about that? And nowadays, as this guitar is showing us, which is the Harley Benton DC Custom Cherry. Now this one they don't make anymore, but there's a newer version, the Custom 2, I think. So it's improved, and I believe the pickups they use some other pickups. Some I don't know, maybe Teslas. I don't know, but yeah, nevertheless, as you heard before, I like these pickups. They work. We can do it. And I didn't even go to the split coil. It's a decent guitar. It's more than decent. Because I'm just slightly below decent player. So if it can make me feel decent and sound decent, then I think this is a pretty decent guitar. Don't you think that? Want more of it? Okay. Here we go. More of that thing called... Learning ropes, tricks, things up my sleeve that I should, be, showing you. I don't know. I make this stuff as I go on, folks. I don't know how it's going to turn out usually, I hope for the best, and sometimes I actually hit the mark, But you know what, folks? I'm having too much fun just shooting arrows in the dark than to worry if I'm hitting the bullseye. It just feels so good pulling back and letting go and see what my hands and fingers can do, my brain, Still recovering from my little injury that I've had, and it's been a few months now. My mallet finger injury, so I get to exercise it now, being still cautious. It hurts. This was probably the most painful I've had to go through with this mallet finger. Still, it's not broken in yet. See, it can't bend all the way yet. From here, it's bending, but not from here. See, I can do that with this finger. I can't do that with this yet, but it's gonna get there. It has slowed down my playing. I have to alter the rest of the hand because of it. But life goes on, you know. Yeah, we gotta do the best we can with what we got. That's what life teaches you, you know. There's no secret to this. You know, it's pretty simple. You know, you practice whatever. You know what? Whatever you yourself want to preach, well, you have to practice. And if you don't preach, well, that's the thing you've been doing, whether you're preaching or not. You know, like the whole idea of leading by example, right? It doesn't have a big old name that's 10 times the price of decent, but you know what? I think this is pretty decent of me to be so decent of a human being to spell it out for you. Drink more water. That's it. That's all I'm saying. That's it. Just drink more water. Clean water, you know. Water that doesn't kill you. All right. On that note, I gotta go. I gotta shut these things off because everything comes early nowadays. And with the price of enjoyment at an all-time low, well, it's no wonder I'm trying to cash in as much as I can with all this fun that I'm having. Thanks for watching. Well, see you the next time I get all choked up for a new guitar that's coming my way.